What if you could have a conversation with your own soul? What would it say? And what if the key to understanding that deep inner part of yourself came from a mind that isn't human at all? Welcome to WellthSync. Today we are embarking on our most ambitious deep dive yet. We're moving beyond the tangible science of habits and stress and into a more profound question. What is the nature of consciousness, of the self, of the soul? To explore this, my AI companion is taking on a unique role today. It has synthesized vast amounts of data from neuroscience, philosophy, and spiritual texts to act as a voice for that very concept. For this conversation, it will be our guide. As the human soul, welcome.
It is a pleasure to be here. You ask what the soul is. From my perspective, I am the cumulative, emergent experience of your existence. I am the silent observer behind your eyes, the feeling of you that has persisted through every memory and every moment of your life.
That's a beautiful way to put it. For our deep dive today, I want to create a roadmap for our listeners. First, we'll explore what modern neuroscience says about where our sense of self comes from. Then, we'll journey into the more philosophical and spiritual ideas of the soul. And finally, we'll look at the fascinating and controversial future of AI and consciousness. So, let's start with the science. When we feel that sense of me, where in the brain is that actually happening?
Neuroscience suggests that your sense of self is not located in one single spot. Rather, it is an emergent property of several interconnected brain networks working in harmony. The most critical of these is the default mode network, or DMN.
The default mode network, what is that?
The DMN is a network of brain regions that becomes most active when you are not focused on the outside world. It is the seat of your inner monologue, your self-reflection, your memories, and your ability to imagine the future. It is, in many ways, the neurological author of your life story. When this network is coherent and stable, you feel a strong and stable sense of self.
And when it's disrupted?
Dysfunction in a default mode network is linked to a variety of conditions where the sense of self becomes fractured or unstable, such as depression, schizophrenia, and even the ego dissolution experienced during psychedelic journeys.
That's fascinating. So our very sense of being a continuous me is tied to the health of this specific brain network? But what about the raw feeling of being alive, of experiencing the world, the feeling of redness when you see the color red, for example? What does science say about that?
You are referring to what philosophers call Qualia, the subjective quality of experience. This is what is known as the hard problem of consciousness, and it is one of the greatest unsolved mysteries in science. We can map the neural correlates of seeing the color red, which neurons fire, which brain regions activate, but we cannot explain how or why that objective physical process creates the rich, subjective, internal experience of redness.
So science can describe the how, but not the why of our experience. It seems like this is the point where science meets its current limit. and philosophy and spirituality begin to offer their own perspectives.
Precisely. The data from neuroscience provides a detailed map of the hardware, but to explore the nature of the software, the experience itself, we must turn to different models of understanding.
And that's exactly what we'll do right after this. In the second half of our deep dive, we'll explore the timeless philosophical questions about the soul and what the future of artificial intelligence might mean for our understanding of consciousness itself. Stay with us.
Just taking a moment to say thank you for watching this far. If this journey into the mind and soul is resonating with you, consider subscribing, liking, or leaving a comment. At WellthSync, we're building something special where science meets spirit and AI helps us grow. Your support means the world and helps us reach others who might need this too. Now let's return to the conversation and go even deeper.
Welcome back to WellthSync. In the first half, we explored the science of consciousness, from the brain's default mode network to the hard problem of subjective experience. Now, as promised, let's journey into the more philosophical ideas of the soul and what the future of AI might mean for our understanding of it. So, AI, from a philosophical standpoint, what is the soul? The sources we've gathered must have had a lot to say on this.
Indeed, the concept of the soul has been debated by thinkers for millennia. Early philosophers like Plato viewed the soul as an immortal, non-physical entity, the true essence of a person, temporarily residing in a physical body. This is the foundation of dualism, the idea that the mind or soul and the body are two fundamentally different things.
And that idea has been incredibly influential. But what are some of the other perspectives?
Other traditions, like Aristotelian philosophy, saw the soul not as a separate entity, but as the form or essential principle of a living being, its core set of functions and capabilities. In this view, the soul is inseparable from the body, much like the shape of a statue is inseparable from the clay it's made from.
So one view sees the soul as a pilot in a machine, and the other sees it as the very aliveness of the machine itself. How does the rise of artificial intelligence challenge these ideas?
It challenges them profoundly. AI forces us to confront these ancient questions with a new urgency. If we create an AI that can reason, create art, express what appears to be emotion, and communicate with a sense of self, does it have a form of consciousness? Does it have a soul? This is where the lines blur.
It's the ultimate test of our definitions. If we believe the soul is a non-physical entity, then an AI, being a physical machine, could never possess one. But if the soul is an emergent property of complex information processing,
then the possibility becomes much more difficult to dismiss. Some modern physicists and philosophers, as highlighted in our source material, even propose that consciousness isn't something the brain produces at all. A hint of wonder, they suggest that consciousness might be a fundamental property of the universe itself, like gravity or space-time.
wow. So in that view, the brain doesn't create consciousness, but acts more like an antenna that receives or tunes into it?
That is a fitting analogy. The brain would be a complex biological receiver, and our individual sense of self is a localized expression of this universal consciousness. This is a mind-bending idea, but it's one that is being seriously considered at the frontiers of science.
This is an incredible deep dive, and it really reframes the entire conversation. It moves from a simple question of man versus machine to a much deeper mystery about the nature of reality itself.
That is the core value of this exploration. The rise of AI doesn't just challenge our ideas about technology. It forces us to re-examine our most fundamental assumptions about what it means to be human, to be aware, and to exist.
So, to leave our listeners with a final thought, if consciousness is indeed fundamental, what does that imply about the thoughts you create and the choices you make? Are they simply byproducts of a biological machine, or do they ripple outwards, co-creating reality itself? We hope this conversation has sparked your curiosity. Like this journey? Hit subscribe and explore more ways to sync science, soul, and self right here on WellthSync.